Hello, this is your project introduction to your slab lantern project. We're first going to review a little bit of history and then we'll review the project information. So, lanterns and luminaries. Luminaries, they are a tradition from Mexico. They are technically paper lanterns and they're often used during Christmas time. They actually spread to the state of New Mexico via the Pueblo Indians, who lit small fires outside their homes to light their way to church on Christmas Eve. The Pueblo Indians actually learned the custom of the luminaries from Spanish settlers back in the 16th century. And those types of lanterns were called farolitos, which are little lanterns. And the Spanish settlers burned small bonfires along the roads and in the churchyards to commemorate Christ's birth. Those are some examples there of what the luminaries would look like. Again, luminaries, they're kind of like lanterns, but luminaries are typically just a light inside of paper bags. So fast forward to, we got the 19th century here. So 19th century American settlers, they had brought Chinese lanterns to hang from their doorways. This was instead of burning bonfires because, right, if we're going to burn a bonfire outside our house, we want to make sure it's safe. So lanterns, though, they were expensive. So if you can't afford a lantern from China, they would use paper sacks. And they put sand inside that paper sacks to help weigh them down, just as you can see in the image right up there. And luminaries, they're often associated with religious celebrations for Christmas, but nowadays we can see them as part of decorations for weddings, religious ceremonies, all types of evening events and parties. Lanterns, which are kind of like luminaries, but lanterns, they've been used in many different cultures throughout history because when it's nighttime, you need a way to light the dark, right? You need a way to have some sort of light. In Japan, they actually created these stone lanterns, and these have been used since the 6th century. They were used to light temples and mark the grounds of shrines and gardens. And in China, lanterns were actually made of silk, paper, or animal skin with frames made of bamboo or wood, and then they would place the light inside of there. So for your assignment, you're going to create a lantern made of slabs of clay that includes a design based on popular culture. And we're going to get to that part more later. But let's focus on creating the lantern out of clay. So these are a few examples of lanterns made out of slabs. They are not popular culture related, but basically the form is made of slabs, and then there's a lot of areas of the clay that are cut out. Now, these are, of course, just different forms, and you can see that you can only cut out so much clay from the walls before it becomes physically unstable. So the objectives for this project is to design and construct a freestanding lantern made of slabs that conveys a theme of popular culture. You will be selecting an appropriate form made of slabs for the visuals of your negative space. So the overall form can relate to that aspect of popular culture that you want to focus on. You're using the piercing technique to cut out negative space from the walls of the clay, and we're using paper templates to design and plan all the parts of the lantern, including where the negative space will be, because you actually use those paper templates later on. And we're also going to design a lid to be part of the overall design and function of the lantern. So there are some specifics for this project. It must be constructed using slabs. It must have at least 3 sides, but the form can be boxy or cylindrical. So boxy would be like what you see here on the screen. Cylindrical would be like this roll of tape, right, which is cylindrical. It's smooth on all of the sides. The negative space designs should convey an aspect of popular culture, and it requires a removable lid that will fit on top. This helps think of more of the design and the functionality of this lantern. For the height, no taller than 10 inches with the lid included, though I will let you determine the height because it's going to depend on the form that you choose. The width should be between 4 to 6 inches wide. We don't want to go too wide because, again, lanterns are typically taller than wider. And the depth, that's like how deep your form is. That really depends on your overall design, but we need to remember that the walls have to be wide enough for the negative space to fit. And the walls of your vessel, because it is a vessel, it should be about 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick, and that is for stability purposes. It must include a detachable lid, which you'll learn about later on. And there are some more guidelines and parameters. We're using the paper templates to plan the slab sizes as well as the negative space design. So templates are really important in this project. The overall form though, right, the form that you use does not have to relate to the aspect of popular culture. Your lantern could be very rectangular, but the negative space helps convey that aspect of popular culture. The negative space designs, we're really trying to get a little bit more interesting here. We really want to avoid the cliche symbols like heart, stars, or common shapes. The negative space cannot be cut too big or too small. We really have to consider the amount of wall space. But I do not have a required amount of piercings. But we do have to consider the physical stability of the walls. If you cut too much out of the walls, that wall becomes weak. No added surface texture, okay? We're just keeping the clay smooth, and the main focus is that negative space that you are creating. The overall design, though, should convey a sense of unity, and that is created due to the negative shapes that you're going to use that relates to popular culture. The lid of the lantern, it should be detachable, no matter the type of form. We can make lids for a cylindrical or for a much more boxy form like that one. And again, there are several ways to create a lid. And these are some examples here that include lids. This example and this example are obviously much more flat, but then we would consider, well, how does that sit? How does it rest on top of the form?